Greetings, everyone. I'm Capt.GhostAviator. Over the last 17 years, I've had the absolute privilege of training pilots all across the globe. Today, we're diving straight into the intricacies of the DGCA syllabus with this explainer on personnel licensing. Now, in my ground school, we don't just memorize rules for the sake of it, we master the airspace they govern. So let's get right into the technicalities.
Before we even touch a single regulation, I really want you to internalize this one core concept. Aviation demands absolute discipline. What does that actually mean for you as a student pilot? Well, it means your goal isn't just squeaking by and passing a DGCA exam. No way! You are building the foundation for a safe, lifelong command in the skies. Keep that discipline in mind as we map out today's flight plan.
All right. Here's our flight plan for today's session. We'll be hitting the pilot entry gates, medical validity and incapacity, defining cross-country airspace, private and commercial privileges, the ATPL apex requirements, and we'll wrap it all up with a master matrix synthesis.
Starting off with Module 1, the pilot entry gates and educational thresholds.
Let's break this down using our concept, application, and DGCA exam tip structure. First up, the concept of educational entry. If you're going for a student pilot's license or a private pilot's license, a simple Class 10 pass, that's your entry gate. Pretty straightforward. But look at the application here. The literal moment you decide to fly for a career, meaning a CPL or an ATPL, the DGCA strictly requires a 10+2 pass with physics and mathematics, no exceptions. And here is your DGCA exam tip. Keep a close eye on the FRTOL, the Flight Radio Telephone Operator's License. It's a bit of a chameleon. It uniquely pops up in both the Class 10 and Class 10+2 lists, depending on the exact regulatory context you're being tested on. So keep that distinction razor sharp.
Moving right along to Module 2, medical validity and incapacity rules.
So the concept here is that your medicals are fundamentally divided by operational privilege. Class 2 is your standard for PPL and SPL. In application, it's got a 2-year validity up until you hit age 50, and then it drops to 1 year. Now, Class 1 is your professional standard for CPL and ATPL. That one is valid for 1 year up to age 60, dropping to 6 months after that. Okay, time for a huge DGCA exam tip, and honestly, this is a massive trap students fall for. If you are conducting single crew operations with a Class 1 medical and you are above 40 years of age, your validity automatically drops to just 6 months. Seriously, do not let that single crew exception catch you off guard in the exam hall.
Now, I want you to burn this number into your brain. 15. The concept here is medical incapacity, and it's a critical safety limitation. If you suffer from a sickness or an injury that leaves you incapacitated for 15 days or more, your license is instantly deemed invalid. As for the application, you or your employer have to immediately notify the Director General. It's that serious. And your exam tip, an illness causing unfitness for 15 days up to 60 days triggers a mandatory special medical examination before you're ever allowed back in the cockpit. Lock that 15-day threshold away right now.
All right, Module 3, defining airspace and cross-country radii.
You know, the concept of a cross-country flight isn't just about leisurely flying from point A to point B. In India, it's rigidly defined by the radius from your departure aerodrome. The application of this rule means for general CPL and ATPL operations, cross-country is anything beyond 100 nautical mile radius. But, and this is a big but, for PPL and microlight licenses, it is specifically defined as beyond a 50 nautical mile radius.
Think of it like concentric rings on a radar map. You've got that inner 50 nautical mile ring for private operations and the outer 100 nautical mile ring for the pros. Here's your exam tip for this one. The examiners absolutely love testing this distinction. Always read the question carefully to verify exactly which license type they're asking about, because this radius fundamentally dictates how you log your cross-country hours for your license issue, so you've got to get it right.
Next up, Module 4, private and commercial privileges and their operational boundaries.
Your very first step on this journey is the SPL. The concept here is that this license is purely for learning and strictly within Indian territory. There are 4 main pillars to how this is applied. 1. VFR only, meaning visual flight rules. 2. You must be supervised by an instructor. 3. An absolute categorical prohibition on carrying passengers or cargo. And 4. You must log 10 hours of solo flight time before you can even think about undertaking any cross-country flights. My exam tip? Memorize this little hook. VFR, supervised, no packs, 10-hour solo before cross-country. Say it until it's second nature.
Graduating up to the PPL requires a total of 40 hours of flight time, and 20 of those must be solo. Now, the concept here is personal freedom, but it comes with strict financial boundaries. The application grants you the incredible privilege to act as pilot in command and actually carry passengers. But here is your absolute red line exam tip. A PPL holder can carry passengers without remuneration, but you can absolutely never fly for hire or reward of any kind whatsoever. The flying and the financial gain are strictly separated.
And then we hit the CPL, your professional threshold. The concept immediately shifts to remuneration, and it demands a total of 200 hours of flight time. The application of your training gets significantly more intense here, especially when we're talking about cross-country flights. Pay very close attention to this major exam tip. Do not confuse the CPL Experience Cross-Country requirement, which is a 300 nautical mile route with 2 full-stop landings, with the Skill Test Cross-Country dimensions, which are 250 nautical miles by day or 120 nautical miles by night. Keep those numbers firmly separated in your mind or they will trip you up.
5,700. If there is a magic number in DGCA weight regulations, 5,700 kilograms is it. The concept here is aircraft weight division. The application is that above and below this specific metric, things like regulations, pick privileges, and open rating mechanics shift drastically. For example, your CPL pilot and command privileges only apply to aircraft up to 5,700 kilos entered in your rating. So, your exam tip. Whenever you see a question about weight classes or type ratings, your first reflex should be to check if the aircraft is above or below 5,700 kilograms.
All right, on to Module 5, ATPL requirements, the Apex license.
The concept of an ATPL application revolves around 3 totally non-negotiable prerequisite gates. In application, you must currently hold, first, a CPL or senior CPL, second, a current instrument rating on a multi-engine aircraft, and third, a current FRTOL. Missing literally any one of these means your application is automatically disqualified. I don't care how many flight hours you have. Now, the exam tip here? The only structural exemption for that CPL prerequisite is for armed forces pilots who otherwise meet the requirements. Everyone else, you need all 3.
Let's talk about the application of your logbook hours. Getting an ATPL requires a massive 1,500 hours of total flight time. But the concept you need to grasp is that these hours are highly nested. If we break it down, out of that 1,500 total, you need 500 hours of cross-country, 100 hours of instrument time, and at least 50 of those have to be an actual flight, plus 75 hours of night flight time. Your exam tip. Examiners test these nested subcomponents ruthlessly. You've got to memorize these headline figures, 1,500 total, 500 cross-country, 100 instrument, and 75 night. Drill them in.
And finally, Module 6, Master Matrix Synthesis. Time to review and prepare.
So, when we synthesize the entry requirements, the concept is really all about pattern recognition. Notice the strict edge ladder for minimums. It climbs from 16 for an SPL to 17 for a PPL, 18 for a CPL, and finally 21 for an ATPL. In application, Class 1 medicals and that 10+2 education requirement become mandatory the exact precise moment remuneration is introduced with the CPL. Also keep in mind for renewals that standard licenses are now valid for 10 years. My ultimate exam tip for you? Understanding this matrix alone answers at least 5 different questions in the standard DGCA databank. Synthesize this data, don't just passively read it, understand how it all connects.
Well, we have systematically covered the entry gates, those strict medical limits, the airspace boundaries, and the professional hour requirements. Like I said at the start, aviation demands absolute discipline, and you now have the structured knowledge to truly master these regulations. You've got the numbers, you've got the rules, and you understand the airspace definitions. So the only question left for you is, are you ready to command your DGCA exams? Review what we've covered, trust in your disciplined preparation, and I will see you on the flight deck.